Hey guys, Plant Doctor here. So today what we're going to do, we're going to go over our July to-do list in the garden, and we're going to take a look at the garden as well, where we're at, the progression of the garden. This is going to be more or less a documentary series that I'm doing over a series of months, walking from spring through winter to document what's going on in the garden. The first thing I want to talk about with you guys is annuals. In particular, annuals in baskets. I'm watering my annuals every day right now. It's hot, although we're here where I'm at, we're a little bit below average. We're running probably between 80 and 85 degrees every day. That's about 5 degrees below normal, but I'm still watering those baskets every day. We're still on that same fertilizer regimen where 1 week I'm using humic acid and the next week I'm using a liquid feed. So one Monday we're putting on humic acid, the next Monday we're putting on liquid fertilizer, and I do have videos on how I do that if you want to watch those videos. But we have had some fantastic results with that. Annuals in the ground. I'm watering those about every day too. I may skip a day here or there, but for the most part, when I water my annuals in the basket, I'm going to be watering my annuals in the ground as well. And we're also using that alternating humic acid and liquid feed fertilizer on that every other week regimen. So one Monday humic acid, the next Monday liquid fertilizer, and then back again the next Monday the humic acid, just alternating back and forth, and we've had some great results. One thing that I am doing on my annuals is I'm starting to deadhead, in particular my petunia baskets. They look fantastic. We had some awesome color 2-3 weeks ago. That's starting to fade out a little bit, so what I've done is gone in and I've pinched back some of those spent blooms, and that will encourage some new growth to come in as well, and we'll get some more flowers out of that as we progress through the summer. Another thing that you need to be looking for on your annuals are insects. Mine are pretty clean right now. I've been fortunate so far in terms of insects on my annuals. If I do get some insects on my annuals, I'll probably do a video on how I'm going to handle that situation there. There's several different products on the market. Depending on what the insect is, I mean, you can use something as simple as neem oil, but if it's something a little more aggressive, you can step up to 7 dust or malathion or something like that, and we'll take a look at that if and when we have some insects on our annuals. But I do my best not to put any insecticides on the annuals or the perennials because they are pollinator attractors. That's one of the things that I like about having annuals there. Speaking of perennials, they are looking fantastic right now. The black-eyed Susans, they are heavily budded, heavily budded, and we're starting to see some color. Shasta daisies, they're showing out. Butterfly bush, it is heavily budded. Russian sage, it has those nice tiny purple flowers on it. The milkweed's blooming, the salvia is blooming. So everything's looking really good. One thing that I probably will do, I'm going to go back into that salvia and probably deadhead some of those because the blooms are spent. I think I can get another bloom sequence out of those if I go in and prune those a little bit. Another thing I'm looking out for on my perennials is insects that I do not want. I want the bees, I want the butterflies. I'm starting to see some Japanese beetles in and around my area. I have not seen any. I've seen the evidence of some Japanese beetles in my yard, but I haven't seen one yet. I saw some on a hosta the other day where they've been chewing on it, and I'll show you that later on in this video. We can use pheromone traps for Japanese beetles and not impact our pollinators, and that's probably what I'm going to have to end up doing this year. But we'll watch that. I don't want to jump the gun too early, but we'll continue to watch that. In terms of watering your perennials, I'm not watering my perennials every day. I water my annuals every day. So my annuals in the ground, annuals in the basket, I'm watering every day. But with my perennials, what I'm doing is I'm watching the black-eyed Susans. They're the first ones that'll really start to wilt a little bit. They're my signaler, if you will. If I see some leaves that start to droop just a smidge, I'll go out and water. That's every 2 or 3 days. And they are looking fantastic. I'm not putting any liquid feed on my perennials. I'm not using any humic acid on my perennials. So what I do in the spring, I put on a 90-day Preel, so a granular fertilizer that slow releases for 90 days. And that gets us to about this time of year, and they're looking fantastic. If I feel like they need another flush of growth, I may put something on them. But I really don't want to put any fertilizers down this late in the season. I don't want to push new growth this late in the season, because especially like a 90-day Preel, because that's going to get us into like October and things need to start going to sleep. I don't want to push new growth, have tender vegetation on that plant, and it die back really hard. So I try to stay away from putting down any type of fertilizer on my perennials. Shrubbery, same with shrubbery. I'm not fertilizing my shrubs right now. If you have not pruned your azaleas, if you have not pruned your forsythias, if you have not pruned your rhododendrons, any of those very early spring bloomers, it's really too late to do so. You can prune them, they'll survive. However, don't expect any flowers come next spring. Those buds have been set, especially in my area. So I'm in North Alabama. I'm kind of on that line between 7B and 8A. Just the map kind of fluctuates every 10 years, and we're right on that line. Sometimes we're considered 7B, sometimes I'm at 8A. If you're further north, you might could get away with it. If you're in like zone 6 or something like that, you might could sneak in here in these next couple of weeks. But you're really pushing the envelope in terms of pruning some of that stuff. Also with my shrubs, I'm doing some insect scouting. I'm looking for aphids. I'm looking for Japanese beetles. I'm looking for scale. Anything like that might need to be treated. Fortunately, I've been really good with the insects on the shrubs this year. I haven't had any problems. On my hostas, I have seen, there was one hosta in particular, I could tell that I think it was a Japanese beetle that had taken a bite out of it. But other than that, it's been pretty good. If you have daylilies in your yard, now is the time to start pulling off some of those spent flower stalks. They'll be brown. If you're saving your seeds, don't pull those stalks off yet. Let those seed pods ripen, mature, open up, collect your seeds. If you pull those stalks now, the seeds aren't going to be any good. But if you're not interested in collecting the seeds off of your daylilies, you can go ahead and pull those off, because I know they can be a little bit unattractive. In terms of weed control, weeds can really get out of hand, especially this year in the month of July where I'm at. We've had a lot of rain. We've had 2 tropical storms come through already. One of them caused some pretty good damage here about a month ago. Came up out of the Gulf, knocked over my neighbor's tree. Had another neighbor tree got split in half. I had several big limbs come down. We've had a lot of rain. And with that being said, I'm seeing some weeds in and around my flower beds, even though I put down some pre-emergent in fall and in early spring. So if it's in and around other plants, say it's in my perennial garden where I have a lot of plants packed tight together, I'm just going in and hand picking those. If it's in a wide open space, say like a walkway, I've got a little bit of Roundup on hand, and I'll just pop it real quick with some Roundup. But however you need to control the weeds in your garden, I know that a lot of the subscribers here on the channel, there's different ways you guys like to handle your weeds, but now is the time to be scouting for weeds pretty much once a week. Just go around your garden and either pull or spot spray and be keeping those guys in check, because things like Bermuda and crabgrass this time of year, they go from a seedling to something this big around in about 10 days. So be looking out for that. In terms of mowing grass, I have raised my mower deck another 1/4 inch. I'm mowing somewhere around 2.5 inches right now. I think I'm at 2 1/4 if I'm not mistaken. And I'll probably raise that up one more time. Reason being, I slowly raise my deck up throughout the growing season. It helps to keep moisture down in the soil layer, and it also acts as a little bit of a weed barrier as well. The sun can't get down to the soil layer, and it just helps you have a nice, clean, thick yard. Ornamental grasses. I love ornamental grasses. In my opinion, it's one of the most underutilized plants in the landscape. It can serve a lot of different purposes. I have some in my yard that acts as a 3-season screen. So in spring and summer and fall, when we're out in the yard the most, they're big, flush, and tall. And then in the winter, I'll cut them back about knee high, but that's okay because where I'm at, our winter tends to be very cold, very rainy. We have lows in the 30s, highs in the 50s. That's kind of average, and it rains a lot. It's muddy, so we're not out here a whole lot in the garden. But they're also a nice accent plant as well. I have some zebra grass in my perennial garden here that I just like it. I like the texture, I like the variegation, and all of these grasses have plumage. So what am I looking for during the summer? They really don't get insects, but I'm looking for rust. If I get a lot of rain, sometimes I'll get some rust on those, and that's not the end of the world, but I do want to be aware of it. And then I'm just making sure they're getting enough sun. They're full sun plants. I want them nice and full because in the fall, if they get enough sun, they're going to put on a nice, thick, tall plumage that's really, it's just a nice send off at the end of the growing season. Everything else is kind of faded out, but you have these nice plumes on these grasses. So, but those plumes start now, making sure those plants are nice and healthy and happy, so they'll put on that plumage for you in the fall. Guys, thanks for watching The Plant Doctor. It means a lot to us here on the channel. We are so close to being monetized here on this channel. And it's because of you guys, so thank you so much. If you haven't already, hit the sub button, hit the like button. It helps us on the channel. To think that I started this during COVID to share some private videos with some of my horticulture students and just threw 1 or 2 videos up on the internet public, and people started subscribing. I was kind of surprised. And so it's kind of become a thing. And so once I do get monetized, my goal here is to not be filming with the cell phone anymore, what I'm doing now, not to have the cheap Amazon mic. I'm not filming with it right now, but when I'm outside, I have a cheap little microphone that I wear to cut down on the wind noise just a little bit and some of the background noise. It's not the greatest in the world, but it's working now. But I want to upgrade the game. I want to bring quality content to the channel. So once we get some ad revenue going on the channel here, my plan is just to roll it right back into the channel, get some quality equipment, and keep bringing the videos. So thanks for watching. Until next time, this is The Plant Doctor.